Thank you, Madam Chair. In October 2018, 189 people were killed when a Boeing 737 MAX airplane crashed into the sea after it took off from Jakarta, Indonesia. Just 4 months later, in March of 2019, yet another Boeing 737 MAX crashed after departing an airport in Ethiopia, killing all 157 people on board. Today's hearing reminds us of the terrible toll those crashes took on the victims and their families, as well as the life and death consequences of the FAA's aviation safety mission. Soon after the Ethiopian crash, I was among the first members of Congress to call for grounding the 737 MAX. It needed to be grounded until aviation experts could determine what had caused the crashes and could guarantee to the flying public that they would be safe. I stand by that decision. It gave the FAA time to correct critical design flaws in the MAX and to help make it safer. After multiple MAX investigations, it became clear that the FAA's Organization Designation Authorization, or ODA process, which gives manufacturers the authority to certify compliance with FAA design standards, needed to be reformed. Reforms were needed to strengthen the FAA's oversight of the ODA process, to improve communication between ODAs and the FAA, and to prevent agency capture. The investigations also found a need to better address human factors in the overall design of aircraft in this era of increasing automation. In 2020, Congress enacted the Aircraft Certification Safety and Accountability Act, or ACSA, to require such reforms at the FAA. Just this week, the FAA proposed a rule to implement a key provision of ACSA, based on an amendment that I wrote that will close the safety gaps in the aircraft certification process by requiring amended type certificates to disclose all proposed changes in a single document. This is an important step to avoid confusion or miscommunication. This committee must remain vigilant in making sure that the FAA appropriately implements the safety reforms made in ACSA. It has been said many times, aviation safety regulations have been written in blood. In the case of the reforms contained in ACSA, that is tragically the case. Today, I want to hear from FAA Acting Administrator Nolan what specific steps the FAA and the aviation industry are taking to ensure that we don't just respond to crashes after the fact, but that we are also taking proactive measures to prevent future tragedies. This committee should use the upcoming FAA reauthorization process to evaluate what additional reforms, if any, are needed to accomplish the goals of ACSA. But we should also use reauthorization to examine ACSA's regulatory impact on manufacturers, both large and small. Like practically every member of the Senate, I fly multiple times a week. The numerous recent near misses by airlines just this year are very troubling. Since Administrator Nolan testified before us less than a month ago, there have been 3 more known near misses. That's at least 6 so far this year. In response, Administrator Nolan is convening a safety summit with aviation leaders next week. I look forward to reviewing any recommendations that come from that meeting. The 737 MAX crashes and the problems at the FAA that were subsequently uncovered are stark reminders of why it is so important to have an FAA leader with deep technical expertise. You simply cannot entrust the role of protecting millions of Americans who fly with a person who needs on-the-job training. It's irresponsible. Unfortunately, that's exactly what we would have with President Biden's FAA nominee, Phil Washington. His hearing last week confirmed what's abundantly clear in his resume, that he lacks aviation experience needed to lead the FAA. He was unable to answer basic safety questions about the 737 MAX crashes, aircraft certification, or how a pilot might react when a system malfunctions. And it's no mystery why. Unlike other FAA administrators, including Administrator Nolan, who has decades of aviation experience, Mr. Washington has never flown a plane, has never worked for an airline, has never earned certificates in aviation safety. And it isn't just Republicans who raised concerns about Mr. Washington's lack of qualifications. At last week's hearing, multiple Democrats on this committee did as well. We need a trained aviation professional to be charged with keeping us safe. And today, Mr. Nolan, I look forward to hearing the steps the FAA is taking to do just that. Thank you.